Hi, this is Ralph Zuranski. I'm on the phone with Willie Crawford. He's one of the pioneers, really one of the true pioneers in the Internet industry, and has done so many things. It's hard to catalog what he's done, where he's been, who he knows. But for someone that has overcome tremendous difficulties in his life, Willie is truly a phenomenal example of what a hero is and how to become a hero. How are you doing today, Willie?
I'm doing great, Ralph.
Could you perhaps explain to the people that are listening a little bit about your life and how you got to the position where you're at now as one of the leaders in the Internet industry?
Absolutely. I was in the military, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and after college, I knew I wanted to start my own business, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so I went into the military for what I thought was going to be just a few years, but I ended up spending a career in the military. And while in the military, I discovered the Internet. I was in a job in Hawaii where I was allowed to surf the Internet, and I discovered that there was a whole world of opportunity out there. And so I started an online business. The first person I stumbled upon was Jim Daniels, and I started reading his newsletter, liked it, and I subscribed to about 100 others. I printed all these newsletters out, and I was an aircrew member, and while I was out flying around, I was reading these printed out copies of newsletters and seeing what all these people had to say, all these people, and this was 96 or so, and late 96, early 97, I was reading what all these people had to say, and they were teaching me how to start an online business. And so what I did was I went ahead and I started a business. I started a business teaching people how to make money on the Internet before I really had learned how to do it myself, really, which is not a good thing to do. It is a good thing to do if you can find the nuggets, if you can find what actually works and share that with people, which is an ability I have now. But what I do is I teach people how to start businesses on the Internet. And I have this passion for making sure people know the truth and that they know what really works as far as starting a business. So I view my role in life, I guess, as sharing with them what really works as far as starting a business on the Internet and building your dream. I don't believe in toying with people's dreams. I know that there are people who spend their last couple of dollars, to buy a course or a product and set up a website and try to get started on the Internet. And I did that back in late 96, early 97. I was told you need to find a niche to follow a passion. I knew nothing. So I set up a site. It was a cooking site. People told me I needed to write a cookbook, and they'd buy it. So I did, and they did, and it makes, probably $300,000 a year this year from just a simple cookbook I did in Microsoft Word. Just a list of recipes, write them out. No pictures the first edition, and the second edition had a few more pictures, third edition a few more pictures, and took off from there. I was online on discussion forums and things like that talking about marketing. People noticed me. And all of a sudden, I was sucked into the arena of Internet marketing speaker. The very first seminar I ever attended, I spoke at. That was Bob Silver's seminar down in the Florida Keys in 2002, December of 2002. And so I've been a guru, if you will, from the beginning. But it's my ability to sift through all of the fluff and see what really works. I have a background. My college degree is in economics, but I grew up on a farm, extremely poor, on welfare most of my youth, and I was in the 11th grade before I even met the guidance counselor at school, who noticed my grades were fairly decent, but noticed also that nobody in my neighborhood went to college, and so she discussed college with me. I looked at 3 colleges. I applied to all 3 that I thought were interesting, and they all accepted me, and I went to the only one I'd ever visited, which was North Carolina State University, which was the one that hosted the state fair every year. It was right near the fairgrounds, and so it's the only one I'd ever even seen the campus of. I went there, got a degree in economics, and went into the military for 20 years, and then traveled the world, and after that, decided I wanted to start my own business. And some of my passion in what I do is that I teach people how to start their own online business, and I point out to them, all the booby traps along the way.
Yeah, boy, there sure are a lot of them, aren't there?
There are a lot of them. I mean, so many people sold a a package of goods, and they come to me with things they bought at seminars, things they bought online, and they're ready to run with something that they think is going to make them $1 million. And I have to say, what you bought is something that's available for free online, and it's not going to do it for you. That you need to step back and start over again. And that's not a very pleasant thing to do, but it's my job to keep people from wasting their time, you know. If I know that something's probably not going to work. I mean, I don't know everything, but I can look at something and say, you bought something that people aren't going to pay for.
Well, you know, that's so true. That's probably the hardest thing in the world, is to tell people the truth about the money that they've invested, and the path that they're going down is not the one that is going to get them to where they want to go, that they bought into the hype that a lot of the people that are selling from the platform use to basically rip the dollars out of the attendees' pockets and put it in their own without really offering much value or much follow-through. It is kind of a sad situation, isn't it?
It is. I mean, you know, I attend probably an average of a seminar a month, or maybe two some months, and I'm sitting in the back of the room and I'm watching the speakers and I'm learning from the speakers. I learn from every speaker in the room. I also learn from all the attendees I talk to. But I'm sitting there and I'm evaluating the process, the psychological process, the sales process, and most people I meet on the seminar circuit are completely ethical. You know, I run across a couple every now and then that I'm thinking, you're not going to sell somebody that, you know.
Yeah.
But they do, and my job is to people trust me. People trust me. That amazes me. I've been online for over 10 years now, and people come to me. People call me on the phone and say, I want your package. And I go, what package? And they say, well, whatever you're selling. And I've had doctors and lawyers and dentists call me and give me their credit card number and say, just send me whatever you have. And that is such a mind-blowing experience that people trust you to that degree. And I work very hard at deserving that trust.
Yeah. Well, you know why that is? I think the reason why it is that you take the time to listen to people. You're in the back room, you're meeting people. I know, and I shared part of this convention with you and hung out with you at the Yonex Underground online marketing seminar. I was amazed at how you weren't puffed up. You spent a lot of time just talking to people that were attendees and answered so many questions for free. I mean, that is a rare quality.
Well, and I understand the experts who aren't as accessible. It's because there's only one of you, and you can only do so much. And that's one of my flaws, actually, is that you can go to any of my websites right now, and my phone number is listed on it. And if you dial that number, there's a chance I'll answer the phone. That cuts into my productivity.
Yeah. But it doesn't cut into your humanity. Which
no,
is, I think,
the
thing that people are looking for is they're looking for a real human being that they can talk to that actually cares about them and wants to offer them the best value that they can get for the money that they have to invest.
Well, they want to know there's a real person on the other end of the website. They want to, when they dial the number, they just want to know there's somebody really there. And when you answer your own phone, which is not, I mean, you mentioned Yonex Underground Seminar. Most of those people speaking outsource things like customer service, and the big part of my outsourcing is my wife doing it. But I answer my own phone, and that's not the way to make $10 million a year.
Sure.
I'll make over $2 million this year.
Yeah.
But I won't make 10 unless I start outsourcing more, and unless I get an answering service and stop messing with my own phone and get somebody to process my own emails and things like that.
Yeah, well, I know we shared the room because my other roommate had to leave early.
Right.
I was amazed at how late up at night you stayed and answering emails and stuff. It was just incredible. I thought, gee, does Willie ever get any sleep?
If you were on Instant Messenger with most of the gurus, you see a lot of them are up at 2 or 3 in the morning, because that's when the phone stops ringing, and that's when you can get the most done. That's when I can focus the most. Is like I'm often up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and again, it shocks me that others will see me online and they'll IM me or whatever and say, "What are you doing up so late?" But it's just I have complete control of my time. I work 100% from the internet, and I choose when I get up, when I work, and everything. And so if I want to work at 3 o'clock in the morning and then sleep late or go fishing during the day, then I can.
Yeah, well, that's really amazing. You've been to a lot of conventions. You've been all over the world, and I'm sure that you've met quite a few people you considered heroes. What is your definition of heroism?
Because I'm a soldier, an old soldier who spent 20 years in the military, my definition is probably different from most. But my definition of heroism is someone who puts the interest of others ahead of their own interest. They do what needs to be done in the face of adversity. They know that they can be harmed. They know that they won't necessarily get the immediate benefit of it, but they do it anyway because they think it's for the better good of society and for the culture or the country as a whole. You know, whether it's a fireman that rushes into a burning building knowing the building could collapse around him, or a soldier who would rather be at home with his family, his newborn baby, but is off on some battlefield risking his life, or a teacher in some inner city school teaching and knowing that there's a possibility that kids in his classroom have guns in their knapsacks or whatever, and that they're, teenagers going through all of these chemical changes they go through in adolescence, and that they're all wired and everything, and any one of them go off at any minute, yet that teacher spends the time and energy to really care for those kids and push them in the direction they need to go. So it's someone who puts the interest of others ahead of their own interest, ahead of their own immediate interest. That's my definition of a hero.
You had a pretty rough upbringing, living on a farm and being on welfare most of the time. I know I had a pretty tough time growing up, too, and I was wondering, did you ever create a secret hero in your mind that helped you deal with life's difficulties?
That's a good question. I didn't have any real heroes per se. My heroes were books. I have a biography I've written called Get Off the Porch, and that's at my website's at getofftheporch.com, GITOFFTHEPORCH.com. And in that biography, I explained that as I looked around me when I was growing up, all the people I knew were smoking pot or doing cocaine or whatever, and every spare penny they had was used to escape from reality. And so they didn't set a good example for me. I knew people who were successful in business. I knew people who were really good role models, except for a few school teachers who reached out to me. And so my grandmother bought a set of World Book Encyclopedia when I was probably 10 or 12, and that was probably the greatest gift that she could have given me. I grew up with my grandmother. My mother and father separated, and when I was about 3, my mother went to New England where the jobs were better than in the South, and she had custody of 3 younger sons, and my father had custody of 2 older children, and he was in the military, still traveling the world, remarried 4 other times after that.
Wow.
And my mother left me and my 2 younger brothers on the farm with my grandmother, and she bought a set of World Book Encyclopedia, and I read every volume of that set of encyclopedia, including the reference guides and things like that. And I also, at 14, started my own mail order business. I had a bulk mailing permit. I did what was called big mails, where you send out a package of circulars, just like online you send out your newsletter. Well, I had a bulk mailing permit, and people sent me their circulars, and I mailed them out to people. And I discovered somewhere in there you could buy and resell books. And people would send me 500 books, and I'd run an advertisement and resell these books. And I discovered some really, really great books. And that's where I learned that there were bigger worlds out there. I discovered in books that there were people who made millions and who, didn't fall asleep worrying about the fuel oil running out at night and waking up in the morning, when it's freezing cold and you have no kerosene left, and so your house is cold, which we did many times. So my heroes were books. That's where I learned about the bigger world and where I learned to dream and to decide I was going to be a part of that bigger world. I read books, and I also listened to audio tapes, Earl Nightingale, people like that. So.
Well, what is your perspective on goodness, ethics, and moral behavior?
And you haven't had a chance to read my biography. If you read my biography, you'll learn that one of the struggles I went through was an addiction. It's the most common addiction in the world, which is an alcohol addiction, and so I had to go through counseling. And when I went through that counseling at the expense of the military, they spent about $28,000 to recycle me, if you will. I learned a lot about myself, and I learned that a big part of the problem with most of us is that we're not comfortable with who we are, and that we've somehow gotten out of kilter, and that we need to reconnect with our higher power, with a God of our own definition, that somebody that we feel comfortable with. Somebody, to me, God's a caring individual that loves me as I love my children, and then we have to define our own world. For me, ethics and morality and all those things are doing the right thing. It's looking at a situation and doing what I know is right. It's doing the next right thing. It's doing the right thing. It's doing what would make me feel good if I knew no one was looking. And so, no matter what I'm involved in, and I'm involved in internet marketing, I get approached with a lot of deals that have the potential to make me $10,000, $20,000, $50,000, and I turn a lot of those down because I look at the impact it's going to have on other people.
Yeah.
And I say, no, I can't do that. For various reasons, but for me, I have to feel good about what I do. The only person that really throws out kilter, if I were to do some of those things that I consider unethical, would be me, and no one would know about it. But I cannot afford to have myself feel out of kilter or imbalanced. So, because of experiences I've been through, because of training I've been through, counseling I've been through, where I've been taught that you do the right thing.
Yeah.
It's just who and what I am,
Yeah. Well, you've been a soldier, and there's always that question of what is a person willing to sacrifice their life for? What would you sacrifice your life for, Willie?
I've often thought of that. I could be in a fast food restaurant where there was a hold-up, and I'd sacrifice my life for the person standing next to me. It's crazy because I have no desire to die, but I view my world is different than a lot of people's. So I'm willing to sacrifice my life for the person just standing next to me in line, especially if that person hasn't lived as long as I have. I look at the world, and I look at humanity, and I look at people that lived 1,000 years before me and people that will live 1,000 years after me, and I see us all as one. I see us all as a continuum of that flow of energy and of genes. It's I don't know. I'm probably getting too far out there, but I look at the fact that right now I share the genes of somebody who lived 5,000 years before me, and 5,000 years in the future, somebody else will probably have my genes, and so I will continue to be there, whether I'm there or not. And so I have no fear of death, and I would risk my life for anyone, really. Mm-hmm. I could be put in a hold-up situation. I could be put in a situation where I would not desire to die. I would hope that in the face of danger, I could somehow pull through.
Yeah.
But I would risk my life for someone who was afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Say in a hold-up situation, I would step in and try to talk the hold-up person out of harming them. It's just me. It's I guess it's my faith knows that even if I'm killed, it's not the end.
Yeah.
So I don't fear death, and so but I was also trained as a soldier to just step up and die. You know, there were soldiers in previous wars who I flew airplanes. They knew that when they went on a mission, that 80% of them would not return. They knew that. Statistically, they knew that, and they did it anyway. And I talked to people who were commanders who would look at their 18 to 20-year-old troops and know that 80% of them would not return, and had to say to them, "Okay, go do your job," which is, you know, these were their children, you know.
Yeah.
And that was so ingrained in me that, to me, risk is I have a very I guess high threshold for risk, which is good in business because I was trained by my mentor that you're going to make mistakes, and so you get the mistakes out of the way. I was trained you're going to fail, and you learn from your failures, so you don't fear those. So you get them out of the way. I was trained fail fast. If you know you're going to fail, no, go ahead and get it out of the way so you can find the successes.
Yeah, boy, isn't that true?
You know that almost every major successful author, out of every 3 books they published, that 2 were complete flops.
Yeah.
If they knew that, why not get those flops out of the way so they can go ahead and get that successful book done? And so I was trained just to go ahead and do it, knowing that. I mean, most people when they look at internet marketers in particular, when they look at the big successes, they don't know that these guys had failures.
Yeah.
But they did.
Yeah. And
now their successes overshadow those failures. But you know, I don't fear failure. I just do it.
Yeah. Well, you know, that is so true. That everybody thinks that when they get their first project done, that it's going to be an incredible success, but don't even know that the majority of the people, the reason why they're so successful is they failed so many more times than anybody else that isn't quite as successful as that. It's called failing forward. The faster you fail, the more you're going to find out what doesn't work and what does work, and the faster you're going to become a success.
Right. The whole key is learning from your failures. Dan Kennedy is one of my favorite copywriters, my favorite mentors. I spent thousands of dollars every year with Dan, and when he was in the infomercial business, I think it was like 1 out of every 8 infomercials that he did was a complete flop. The one paid for the 8 failures.
Yeah.
But it wasn't looked at as a failure. It was looked at as, okay, we discovered this didn't work. You know, and if it was the same company paying for those, you know, the one success and all the other failures, it wasn't bad. But if it was different companies paying for the failures, then that was bad. But if marketing is all about testing, and you just can't look at it as failure. You look at it as learning experiences.
Yeah, and I think probably you would agree that the most important thing in the world is to actually do something and create a product. So many people spend their lives spending thousands and thousands of dollars every month just going to the seminars, buying all the courses, and never producing one product or taking the good advice that the majority of the speakers give them.
Most people sit in the back of the room, they make notes, they plan, they buy things, they go home, they stick it on the shelf, and the speakers can't control what their customers do with what they buy. So you, I guess, grow a little calloused as far as, well, if they're not going to do anything, that's not my fault. But it's all about action. I mentioned earlier I'd gone through some counseling. One of my counselors said to me, she said, Willie, she said, nothing happens until you change. It's all about change, and it's all about action. This is March, and on January 2nd, I produced my first info product this year. I sat down and spent about 4 hours writing out an e-book that was 24 pages. I sold for $29. It's already made me $15,000. This is March, I'm on my 5th product this year already.
That's great.
And I've already made, March, about $300,000 this year.
Yeah, boy, that's sweet.
Yeah, I mean, part of that, that's skewed because I did a fire sale that made like $27,000 in a day. But that's all about action, see?
Yep.
again, I looked at Mike Filsaime was selling his butterfly marketing program, and when I went through it, I said, everybody and his brother is going to do a fire sale now. And I said, I need to do one early. And I'm sure I was one of the first people to do one.
Yeah. And
I rolled it out. I didn't give my partners enough time to plan for it.
Mm-hmm.
I just said, I was at Ken MacArthur's JV Alert Live seminar in Orlando, and I said, I'm going to do this starting on Friday of next week. And I said to the people in the room, I'll let you in first. I offered that as the back of the room product for like $47. And I didn't even have the products together yet. I went back home, planned it, put the website together. There were some glitches there with the scripts that were supposed to run the back end of the show. And while others were making excuses and hemming and hawing, I said, I'm not going to delay it. I'm going to do it. And so I had to make some changes. I had to email my partners and say, there's changes. The back end that pays you, that manages the affiliate program, some of that stuff has changed because there's problems with the scripts. But I'm still going to do it on time. And we rolled it out, and my first day was $27,000. My second day was $21,000. My third day was $18,000. And there's people in my part of Florida that don't make $18,000 in a year.
That's true.
Or maybe they do, but that's poverty level. But nobody makes $21,000 a day or $28,000 a day. But I did, Yep. And that's just my friend Joe Vitale. He wrote in one of his books. He says, money likes people that act fast. And that's all I picked up from that book. I think that was the attraction factor. I'm not sure. But I make a decision, and I do it.
Yeah. Well, that is amazing. You're experiencing some incredible success in your life now. A lot of people don't realize that everybody has low points in their lives. In fact, life is like a roller coaster. When was the lowest point in your life, and how did you change your life path to win a victory over all obstacles? I
want anyone listening to this call to go to getofftheporch.com. GITOFFTHEPORCH.com. Getofftheporch.com, and read my biography. I talk about getting up one morning, walking into the shower, taking a shower, and in the middle of the shower, collapsing. And I made such a thunderous noise that my wife rushed into the bathroom, and I'm lying in the shower, dying. I'm convinced I was dying at that time. And she yells and screams at me, "Don't you do this. Don't you leave me." And she yelled and she screamed so much that there was a part of me that thought, I'm tired. I'm very tired. At that point, I'd probably been drunk for like 6 months, every single day.
Really?
I was a functional walking drunk. I'd go to work and do my job and drive back and forth, and I could function perfectly normal. But my body had said, "You completely overwhelm me. I'm tired," and I'm lying on the floor of the shower with the water flowing, and the room is going dark. And it was my wife yelling and screaming, "Don't you leave me, don't you do this to me," that I guess pulled me out of it enough to where she helped me out of the shower. I sat down on the toilet lid and got dressed, and they took me to the hospital where they sent me into treatment for alcohol addiction at the time. A third of my blood was alcohol.
Really?
It was in excess of 0.35, I think it was.
Oh, man.
Should have poisoned my brain enough where my brain should have stopped working,
Mm-hmm.
And so they sent me to a 28-day treatment program, and that was the low point of my life. The weeks leading up to that, I'd done a number of crazy things. This is deep. I'd done a number of crazy things. I spent 3 years in Alaska, where I was assigned as a soldier. And when you go out fishing or in the wilderness in Alaska, you can look behind you and see a bear or a wolf or a badger or some other creature that wants to hurt you. And so I carried a .44 Magnum pistol with bare rounds. These rounds were powerful enough where somebody can drive at you with a car, and you can shoot through the radiator into the engine block of a car with a .44 Magnum and stop that car.
Wow.
That's how powerful that pistol was. I went from Alaska to Florida with the military. I brought my pistol along, and at my lowest point, I actually considered suicide. And I can remember being out drunk and thinking, I've lost control. I'm a control freak. I like being in control of myself, my life, everything. And I thought to myself, I've lost control. And I thought, I'm going to end it all. And I actually stuck my gun to my head, cocked it, and then I thought, I don't want to die alone. I want somebody to hold me in their arms as I die. That's what stopped me from shooting myself. I didn't want to just be out by myself in the middle of nowhere with no one appreciating the fact that I was killing myself.
Wow.
I wanted to be touched by another human being as I died. That was the lowest point probably in my life, you know. And many people go through that, and it's important for those people to realize that it's okay to be that way, but you need to reach out to others and let them know that you're struggling, because there's people who are there to help you, and people helped me, and you know, I turned around, but that was a low point in my life. I was on the verge of taking my own life at one point. I collapsed in the shower and was on the verge of my body just saying, okay, we give up. You've abused me too much. And I came back. And at that point, I was making over $100,000 a year on the Internet. You know, things have turned around enough now where it's seven figures. And it happens. And when the momentum kicks in, it's just amazing, just totally amazing. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, boy, that is amazing to get to that point where you're ready to take your own life. I know I was at that same point, and even though I had money and sex and drugs, there was just no happiness there.
Yeah. For me, it's all about serenity.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about being at peace and at ease and comfortable with your role in the world. And if you're not happy with where you are, with who you are, then, you know, something's out of kilter, but you need to find that balance, because otherwise life is just it's not worth living to you. And serenity is very important to me. Peace and happiness is very important to me. I mean, I live in Northwest Florida, where I can get up any day and just go out, go fishing, whatever. And as long as there's no hurricanes, I can just go out and go fishing and be out in the middle of the ocean. The ocean is the most peaceful place in the world. I mean, it puts me in touch with my tiny place in the world, because I'm just one little tiny speck, you know, of dust in the universe. And you can go out and you can look down in the ocean and see a school of 1 million fish, and you realize how vast things are. And if you look on your depth finder and see the ocean, that spot's like 5 miles deep, you know, which is incredible. You realize that if you fell overboard, you'd never reach the bottom. As the water, the pressure and the things change, you'd sink slower and slower and slower, and you'd never reach the bottom. That's just incredible. But you know, I'm all about serenity. I'm all about being happy with what I do. And when I was in the military, I'd wake up every day. I'd look at the television, there was news on, and every day there's a conflict in the world. There's like 35 wars going on in the world right now, whether most people think about it or not. I mean, Korea's been at war since the 50s. They're still technically at war. You know, the North against the South. Mm-hmm. And there's about 35 wars going on in the world. And as a soldier, I'd look on the television and say, where am I going to be tonight? And as an aircrew member who delivered special forces and soldiers who did clandestine things and things like that behind the line, I didn't know. And there came a point where I just said, I'm tired of this, and I want to experience some of my children's birthdays and just be more in control of where I am at the end of the day. And that was when I decided I was going to leave the military, and when I decided I was going to go ahead and build my own business. Mm-hmm. And make it a success. You see, failure was never an option for me. It was, you will build a successful business, and you will make over $1 million a year from your successful business. Mm-hmm. It was never an option that I could do anything other than that.
Well, how important, Willie, is it to have a dream or vision that sets the course of your life? It's
extremely important. it's everything. You have to believe that you can achieve that dream, but if you don't have that dream, you'll settle for where you are. You'll settle for where you are, and that's very sad, because I deal with people online every day who are stuck in jobs they hate, whose family situation is not where they'd like it to be, and they're willing to settle for it. I'm not willing to settle. But not only that, I traveled to over 40 countries in the military, and I saw what was possible. I went to Panama, for example. There were multi-million-dollar condos, and right next to them were 10 sheds of homeless people who just pitched a shed next to the side of the building. So I saw extreme wealth and extreme poverty. So I knew what was possible. I know what's possible. And then it's a matter of knowing that you can achieve, the high end of that spectrum. And it was just, I set a goal for myself. I set many goals for myself, and I take action on those goals, but I refuse to believe that I can do anything other than the high end of that spectrum. And part of that's also a philosophy that it's okay to achieve a lot of things, to have wealth. My grandmother, I grew up in the Southern Baptist Church. She had 15 brothers and sisters. Her father built the church, and I grew up thinking money was bad. She would say to us as youth, money is the root of all evil, which is not what the Bible says. It says the love of money is the root of all evil, because, if you put that ahead of caring about others and things like that, that's bad. Mm-hmm. Having money is not bad. I had to relearn that. I had to learn that it was okay to have money, that money lets you do things that you couldn't otherwise do. You can spend money on things you care about, but only if you have it. So money is not bad, and I had to relearn that, though, and now I've learned that, I clearly envision myself someday making $10, $20, $30 million a year, but I'll spend that on things that I care about, cancer research, whatever. But money itself is not evil. It's just a tool. Just a tool.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's important to have a positive view of setbacks, misfortunes, and mistakes, and it sounds like you've arrived at that position where that is your belief. How important has that been in your life, of taking positive view of setbacks, misfortunes, and mistakes?
It's extremely important. I was stepped through a process of forgiving myself for the mistakes I made. I've made many mistakes in my life. Done wrong to other people. I was taught that you cannot undo those mistakes. You can go back and apologize for those mistakes, and people may or may not forgive you, and that's okay either way. You have to let go of it. I'm only in control of myself, and even then, only to a certain extent. I learned a long time ago, I'm not even in control of myself, and so I can only control what I do at a given moment in time. My belief system is that I can do anything, and there's this saying, we call it the serenity prayer, which is like, what is it? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change the things I cannot. I actually lost that. It's
change the things that I can, and know the difference between the two.
There you go. So if I look at something and I can change it, and it needs to be changed, I'll do it. But if I look at something, and I have two beautiful daughters. My wife's in the Philippines. I'm African American, so my daughters have this jet black hair. It's straight. They are the ideal of many cultures. I mean, you as a white person, you want to get a tan or whatever sometimes. Well, they've got the tan. They've got the straight hair that I wanted, and they're in the middle. And I as they were growing up, I looked at all the young suitors they had and they wanted to chase them off but couldn't. And I learned just some things out of your control, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
You just go with the flow,
mm-hmm.
and if you can't change it, you don't worry about it. So
yeah.
I'm at peace with myself and with the world right now, and that's a very good place to be.
Well, I guess so. Well, how important is optimism in achieving that peace?
A part of me is also about, I guess, energy management and not allowing myself to be influenced too much by negative people, negative things. And so I'm a very optimistic person. Again, I see myself as making millions of dollars a year, not just to have it, because money is just an instrument. It's just a piece of paper. Well, actually, 94% of the world's money is zeros and ones in a computer system.
Mm-hmm.
But to go from welfare, to go from being on government subsistence, so poor that I woke up at one point in my life and I'm ready to go to school and my shoes, the bottom's falling off. And my grandmother says, well, here, honey, wear my shoes to school. And I'm like, I can't wear my grandmother's shoes to school. And she's like, well, you can. So I put on my grandmother's shoes. These shoes were like nurses' shoes with like thick bottoms because she was a diabetic and she had to have her feet comfortable. And I wore those shoes to school, and the only people who mentioned it and gave me a hard time were cousins because they were embarrassed that I was wearing, as a teenager, a grandmother's shoes. But I had no choice. So I could have missed school until the next check arrived, next welfare check, and we could have gone to the local department store and bought another pair of shoes. But I didn't. I just wore them to school. And so that was such a lesson for me in life, and just and not letting what others say or do or think impact you too much. I when I was in college, I studied sociology.
Why did you?
Yeah, I studied why we do what we do and how we're impacted by other people's opinions. I'm not influenced by other people's opinions right now. It's good I didn't learn what I know now when I was younger, because I can sit on the airplane and look across the aisle at the most beautiful lady in the world, and strike up a conversation and feel completely at ease and feel like she's more ill at ease than I am. I can look at a 90-year-old and see beauty in their eyes and just feel their spirit, because I'm completely at ease with the world and with everyone and who I am. And optimism plays a part in that. It's wherever I am and whatever's happening is supposed to be happening right now. I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Well, do you think that's important as far as a perspective of expecting good things to happen to you and looking for the silver lining in things that may not appear good firsthand?
It is. I believe that when you do good for other people, that good comes back to you, and it may not come back to you right away. I understand that, and so, if I do a favor for you or do good for you, I don't expect you necessarily to do good back for me, but I know it will come back to me.
Yeah, yeah. So
and it does. It always has.
Yeah.
I make contributions, donations, things anonymously to tons of organizations. I've walked into McDonald's, and actually my wife's going to hear this recording later probably, but I've tipped the guy sweeping the floor, $10, or just giving it to him just to watch his face light up, because nobody does that.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah, it is a good feeling. One of the things that a lot of people have is fear of pursuing new ideas. Do you think that it takes courage to pursue new ideas?
It takes courage to know that your ideas may not be accepted and that you may fail. If you miscalculate and you do something that was headed down the wrong path. So that goes back to that fail fast, because something's going to work. And a lot of my teachers in real life, a lot of my teachers in books have taught that since the majority of people are average or failing, you need to do something different. You need to just step out there and take a chance, And I do that. I have no fear of failure. I don't want to, leave my family in a bunch of debt when I die, and I won't. But I have no fear of taking chances.
Mm-hmm.
I have no fear of taking chances. I have no fear of rejection, which is significant because too many people worry about what others think. I don't care what others think.
Mm-hmm.
I calculate my probability of success, my probability of doing the right thing, and I take action.
Mm-hmm.
When I go to seminars, I make a list of what I'm going to do in the next day, next week, next month, next 6 months, and I do those things. And there are things, I go back to my hotel room and get on the internet and do things that night on some websites, just
mm-hmm.
testing things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't spend too much time thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get trapped in that paralysis by analysis thing.
Mm-hmm.
I do it.
Mm-hmm.
I just do it. And it's made a tremendous difference.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you experience the discomfort that comes from pursuing new ideas and the pursuit of your dream, how important is it to be willing to accept that and go through it to attain a higher level?
You have to realize that if you do fail, what the consequence is going to be, and if the consequence is extremely high, maybe you should not do it. But what I've discovered, what was it? I read a book a couple of years ago, and there was a saying in there that most of the time when you fail, the only consequence is maybe the need to admit that you failed. But there's also a great probability no one noticed that you failed.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that even if I completely screw up, chances are no one even noticed that I messed up,
Boy, that's so
true. What am I risking? I'm risking embarrassing myself in front of a group of people that I care about their opinions.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of those people aren't even willing to step out and take the chance. So what is the cost of failure, of taking a chance, of making a mistake, of not achieving your goal? Often it's just, I made a mistake and I didn't do what I was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to torture you forever for that.
Mm-hmm.
They may mention it a while, but we very quickly get back to our own world and what's important to us, and we forget, Willie messed up when he tried this project.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very quickly. And so I'm not afraid to try very big things.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send you, after this interview, I'll send you some links to some of the projects I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working many projects that are multi-million-dollar projects, and they're not guaranteed to succeed.
Yeah. Yep.
But if they succeed, we'll change the world. I'm involved in a project to build a number of homeless shelters in Baton Rouge, funded by a cable television show, cookbooks, spices, cookware, all kinds of products, and that project will succeed. But I'm involved in a lot of other projects that are multi-million-dollar projects that, if they don't succeed, we tried,
Well, how important is it to have a belief that your dreams will eventually become reality?
It's extremely important. If you don't believe in yourself and believe that it's conceivable, then the negativism and everything will transfer to your actions. And so you'll sabotage yourself. You'll do things that indicate you don't believe it's possible. And man is an electromagnetic creature. We pick up on other people's signals, other people's energy. And so if you're telling somebody one thing and you feel something different, people can pick up on that just because we can pick up on other people's magnetism or the energy they're giving off in their bodies. You sit in a room with somebody and you're talking with them and thinking about doing a deal with them, and the hair on the back of your neck stands up, and you feel, I don't trust this guy. You're picking up on that person's electromagnetic energy.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel you should do a deal with that guy, don't do a deal with that guy. There's something wrong with it. So you got to trust your instincts too. And it's difficult to explain, but I trust my instincts. I trust my feelings. They've never led me wrong. I could go way off in left field explaining a lot of things and get into quantum physics and all kinds of stuff. But, I mean, we live in a world defined by laws. As a marketer, one of those sets of laws is the laws that Robert Cialdini laid out in the book Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion. One of those laws is the law of reciprocity. When somebody does something for you, no matter what country you're in, and anthropologists study every culture in the world just about now, when somebody does something for you, you feel an obligation to do something back for them. And there's other laws that they're just natural laws that are inviolate, that say this is how human beings interact. If you can study and understand and master those laws, you're actually quite dangerous,
Well, one of the things that everybody has problems with is their doubts and fears. How do you overcome your doubts and fears?
I say to myself, I'm statistically, I don't know, going to live probably 80. My grandmother lived to be 96, and I'm 50 now, or I'm 47 now. So I have to be willing to take chances. I have to be willing to be wrong. And again, it's going back to, if I'm wrong, who's going to notice and what are the consequences? And there are no consequences. I mean, if I'm wrong, somebody might mention it in their newsletter, on a discussion forum or whatever, but most people are not going to notice.
Yeah.
So I have doubts. I have fears. I know myself better than the average person does, just because I was taken through a process of getting to know myself. And most people will not admit they have fears. But yes, I have fears. I have doubts. But I'm willing to step through them, Well, I'm willing to do things that take chances. Because I know that 90% of the time, even if I mess up and I make a mistake, the penalty for being wrong is not that high. We exaggerate in our minds the penalty for being wrong. We exaggerate the cost of making the wrong decision. I mean, when you walk down the street or you drive down the street and you look at people on the street corner, 99% of those people don't know who you are completely unaware of who you are. They're in their own world. They will never, ever, ever even know of your existence. And so to worry about making a mistake is totally not called for. I mean, if I go out on the internet right now and spend $10,000 on an advertising campaign and mess it up, nobody will know except for the people I spent the money with, and maybe not even those people, There's no reason to doubt or fear anything. Fear is completely unfounded. I mean, who's going to know, and why do you care?
Yeah. Well, do you think that 90% of all the things that we fear never become reality?
Yes, 90% of all the things we fear never become reality, and it's I don't know, it's crazy, but you watch a horror movie or whatever, and you watch the monsters in the movie. Those are all products of someone's imagination. They're not real,
Yeah.
So there's no reason to fear. You should identify what you want, and you should go for it.
Well, who helped give you the willpower to change things in your life for the better?
My grandmother, who my father and mother separated, and my mother left me and my two younger brothers with my grandmother. We were like 3, 4 years old, and then she went up to New England to find a better job. My grandmother was a short, fat lady, but I just watched her interacting with the world, and even though she didn't have a lot of wealth, she had no wealth, really. I mean, we had a $365 a year house payment, and she worried about making that payment. She had a farmer's home administration loan, yet the way that she dealt with the world showed me that there's nothing to fear, There's absolutely nothing to fear. And lately, I've run into a few people online who are coaches or mentors, and they've also taught me the same basic lesson, which is most people fear things they don't need to fear. So if you can get beyond that, then life is good. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Well, how important is it to readily forgive those that upset, offend, and oppose you?
That's an interesting question. As a black person, as a soldier, as someone from the South, I've been offended. I've been discriminated against. When I was in the military, got back to my biography again, I talk about a unit I was in where the commander of the unit basically took care of those who went to the same school he went to. And so you were treated unfair if you weren't one of the inner circle, you know. And that was pointed out to me very quickly in that unit. I learned that we are most comfortable with people just like us, people the same background, the same whatever, just like us. And so once you go to understand that, if you're different than me, I don't know what you're all about. I don't trust you. I don't feel comfortable around you. You grow to appreciate why people do what they do. I don't allow others whose smallness makes them racist or sexist or ageist or whatever to impact me at all. I try to understand where they're coming from, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't allow them to impact me at all. Mm-hmm. I try to figure out why they are the way they are, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like me because of my whatever, I want to know why. I want to know what makes you that way, and I want to understand that. And I want to know if maybe I can change
mm-hmm.
your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to change your perspective by arguing with you. I want to change your perspective by showing you that I'm different.
Mm-hmm.
That I care about you,
mm-hmm.
that I want to make your life better. And I don't want to argue with you. I don't want to change your perspective by discussion. I want to change your perspective by demonstrating that you're wrong
mm-hmm.
and leading you to that logical conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't like me because of my race, my religion, my age, whatever, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't impact me at all. I worry about things I can change, and the things I can't change, I don't worry about.
So you feel that it's important to forgive those that injure you in some way, either emotionally or physically, just because...
Absolutely. 1,000%. Mm-hmm. You know, I've often sat in traffic or driven in traffic and just watched somebody riding their horn, and then they're off down the freeway, and that person may be fuming, you know, 10 miles away. Well, the person that they honked their horn at should have gotten over it, and the only person that's being impacted now is the person just harboring that ill feeling.
Mm-hmm.
The only person being affected is the person who can't let go.
Mm-hmm.
So I've learned to let go. I've learned to let go. That it doesn't matter. It's not worth spending hours or even minutes harboring ill feelings towards someone, harboring resentment. Just you know, life happens, and the minute it happens, if it's worth paying attention to, you pay attention to that minute, and you ask yourself, what can I do? I'm also about positive energy. I'm about it's been proven to me that if you surround yourself with negative people, negative events, negative things, that you attract negativity. Mm-hmm. If you surround yourself with positive people, positive thinkers, positive doers, you attract positive things into your life. Mm-hmm. I firmly believe that. Mm-hmm. And so I let go. Things that are negative, I push out of my life. I don't. They're not permitted in my life at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you experience service to others as a source of joy?
Absolutely. I have one friend one mentor who shared with me that his father, I won't get too deep in this because somebody will mug me, but he told me that his father he used to go into restaurants and pick out a young couple that looked like they were struggling, and he'd call the waiter over and say, "I want to pay for their meal," anonymously. Mm-hmm. And he would pay for their meal, and, you know, the waiter would, and he'd leave before the meal was over, maybe. Mm-hmm. And the waiter would go up to him and say, "Somebody paid for your meal already, you know, don't worry about it." I believe in service to others to that extent. I believe in giving anonymously. I come across people on the internet all the time who are struggling, who need help, and I give it to them. And again, I'm too accessible by phone. I need to fix that, because there's people who don't need access, who don't need me really, but they just tap into me because I am a valuable resource. Mm-hmm. But there's others who really, really, really need me and won't make it without me. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. When I went through struggles, and I asked myself, so what's life all about? Mm-hmm. Somebody convinced me it's about serving my fellow human. Mm-hmm. You know, helping out other people. I mean, I'm going to live, I don't know, 80 years, and I'm going to die. And when I define why I'm here, part of it is to be of service to others, connect to others, it's to love others. And so, yeah, to me, being of service to others is very important. Mm-hmm.
Well, what place does the power of prayer have in your life?
Prayer connects me with my higher power. Again, I mentioned I was a Southern Baptist. My religious grounding is, that's what my parents believed, and so if they and the generation before them and the generation before them and the generation before them all believe the same thing, and they pass that belief along to me, I can question that belief, but I can't believe I'm smarter than, you know, people who live for 10,000 years before me, you know. Mm-hmm. There's something wrong with thinking I'm smarter, and we all do think we're smarter. We think that, you know, well, they were ignorant or whatever, you know. Mm-hmm. So I need to really look at this. Mm-hmm. But prayer connects me with, you know, the person that's running it all, and it allows me to step back, to allow energy and goodness and serenity and all those things just to flow to me. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, I'm throughout the day look for opportunities just to connect with a God of my understanding. See, and that's again my drug treatment days, mm-hmm. where part of what you're taught in rehabilitation is that a lot of us are out of kilter with our concept of God, and if our concept of God isn't working for us, there's something wrong with that. You know, mm-hmm. You've got to feel that whatever your concept of this higher power is, cares about you, mm-hmm. and isn't vindictive and loves you. And so that's why if you go to Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or any of those treatment programs, they always use the term of God of your understanding. Mm-hmm. You know, I've spent too many years struggling with, so what if you believe differently than I do? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, are you wrong? Yeah. And, you know, if your parents taught you differently than what my parents taught me, are you wrong? So I don't even go there, but mm-hmm. prayer allows me to connect with this higher power, whatever created the universe and the world around me, and that I feel every day in my life. I feel every day in my life and almost every minute in my life. I mean, I can be in the most horrendous environment. I can be anywhere doing anything, and I am at total peace with the world. Mm-hmm. And that's an incredible feeling. It's mm-hmm. To me, the greatest power in the world is love. Mm-hmm. I can be surrounded by people who completely hate my guts, and if I can try to understand them, mm-hmm. and I can try to love and appreciate them, they're disarmed. Mm-hmm. They're not even a threat to me. Mm-hmm. It's mind-boggling if you really think about it. But the greatest power in the world is love.
Well, also, along with love comes humor. Do you maintain a sense of humor in the face of serious problems? Because I know in situations that are difficult, sometimes it's either laugh or cry.
Yes, humor is incredibly important to me. I mean, I don't allow myself to watch negative movies, for example, anymore. I mean, I've gone through a number of courses that taught me about energy management and about how your environment affects you. And so if I can't laugh or smile about a situation, if I can't be led to laugh or smile by a movie, it's not for me. When I turn on the news and it's all negative, I turn it off. And it's not because I don't want to hear it. It's because if I can't change it, I don't need to fret over it. Mm-hmm. If it's something I can change, and I should, and I'm the right person to change it, I'll go out and try to change it. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to spend, all my energy, all my time worrying about something that I have absolutely no control over, no influence over. And so comedies are the greatest gift I can give to myself. That's another thing. When you look at what you allow into your life, you have to be good to yourself first. If you're not firmly grounded psychologically and mentally, you can't help others. So you got to be happy with yourself first. And for me, that's not watching negative TV shows, not listening to negative music, not watching negative movies. It's watching things that propel me towards, that energize me and push me towards my goals. Mm-hmm. It's not allowing negativity into my life at all. If you're a negative person and you're a friend, you can still be my friend, but I'm not going to hang out with you. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about that in my mind right now. My mentors have taught me that negative people just drain you of your energy. If all you can do is complain, you can complain to me, but I'll say to you, what are you doing about it? Mm-hmm. And I'll push you towards doing something about it. But if you don't do anything about it, we'll part ways. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Boy, that's so true. Well, who are the heroes in your life, Willie, other than your grandma?
I thought about that earlier. I don't really have any heroes. My heroes were people I discovered in books because I didn't have the role models that that did things I wanted to do in my community when I was growing up. I will say that teachers who took on one of the toughest jobs in the world, shaping young minds, were heroes, and soldiers and police and firemen, they're heroes. But there's a lot of other people in our society heroes to me too. Volunteers, people, I went through some medical procedure recently, and as I'm sitting in the waiting room, this young lady who was a Red Cross volunteer who herself was dying of cancer and knew it. She worked as a volunteer, just to cheer people up while they're in the waiting room waiting for a family member to pull through surgery. I thought, that is so giving, She said, I'm not going to sit at home, thinking about my misfortune. I'm going to go out, reach out and touch someone else. And she was, honestly dying. She knew she had maybe 4 months to live, yet she spent her time as a volunteer in a waiting room, just cheering up other family members. Mm-hmm. That was so profound. Mm-hmm. So my heroes are volunteers, people who just give of their spare time, of their spare assets to help others.
Mm-hmm. It's funny too when people are depressed or cast down that the fastest way to raise their spirits is by doing something for somebody else without expecting anything in return.
Absolutely. I was just saying, I felt bad because I had no shoes until I saw a man who had no feet. Mm-hmm. And no matter how bad your situation, if you look long enough and hard enough, you're going to find someone who has it worse than you do.
Mm-hmm. Well, why do you feel that heroes are important to young people?
Because young minds are so malleable, so shapeable, that they look for examples of what's possible in the world, and they need something positive to see. I mean, all you see on television is just negativism. All you see in movies is, for the most part, negativism.
Mm-hmm.
And so they need somebody that shows them what's possible and show them what's possible when you do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and to me, heroism is about doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, who do you think are the heroes today that aren't getting the recognition that they deserve?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier school teachers. There are so many school teachers who are in really, really dangerous situations, who are getting paid next to nothing, not getting any respect, and yet they're shaping the next generation of our country.
Mm-hmm.
So I think school teachers are, I want to say soldiers because I was a soldier, and because when America transitioned to the all-volunteer force, what that meant was the rich could then say, well, I don't want my son to go into the military, so I'm going to hire you instead to go and risk your life to defend me and my rights and my privileges. And someone who, you know, once you raise your hand and say, I'll follow orders and do what I'm told to do, you've basically volunteered to sacrifice your life if necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, while everybody says a soldier is a hero probably, most don't realize that they basically given up all their rights. I mean, I spent 20 years where if you told me fly up or charge up that hill with a rock, it was my job to do that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And even if I saw the guy in front of me getting shot, it was my job to do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when a country has an all-volunteer force, you're finding people to step out and volunteer to risk their lives and their health
mm-hmm.
to defend your way of life. To me, a soldier is a big hero.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to just run out and get shot, but a soldier is defending your freedom, your ability, your right to think whatever you want to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's often somebody who has less choices as to other things to do,
mm-hmm.
and so because they don't have a lot of other options, they choose to go into the military, and they're off in Iraq, in whatever country. They're in the demilitarized zone in Korea. The war ended in Korea in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
The countries have been at war over almost 60 years.
Mm-hmm.
And there are soldiers on the front lines
mm-hmm.
every day right now. And so to me, a soldier, a soldier, you know, a young man who at 18 gets married and marries his high school sweetheart and then goes off and leaves her, maybe pregnant, and he gets a picture of his child being born while he's off in some other country.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's a tremendous, tremendous sacrifice. And I you know, anybody who listens to this recording, I beg them to at least, show your support for somebody like that. You don't have to agree with the politics of your country. What you have to realize is that the soldiers don't have to agree with the politics of the country. They do what they're told to do.
Yeah.
I've often said that, you know, the old men sit around and make decisions and send the young men out to get shot.
Yeah.
You know, those young men have no choice. They volunteer to do a job, and then they have to trust their leaders to make good decisions. And decisions aren't always good, but they do what they're told to do. So to me, a soldier is a tremendous, tremendous hero. Firemen, policemen, very tough jobs. They do things to protect us, and we often don't appreciate them. But we all appreciate firemen. Policemen, you know, I'm driving down the freeway, and my wife's in a police car, and she brakes or whatever. I don't brake. I think, great, there's a guy doing his job. He's protecting me. Mm-hmm. And he's taking tremendous risk.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's getting paid next to nothing.
Yeah.
In my part of Florida, $35,000 a year is salary for policemen. Mm-hmm. You know, I've done that in a month. You know, so
yeah.
Yet it's his job to protect me, my home, my property, protect me against drunk drivers, drug dealers, people just driving wild on the freeway. So policemen are my heroes. I don't. It's not us against them. It's them working for me.
Yeah, boy, that's so true. You know, it's funny that a lot of people don't realize that the freedom they experience is at the sacrifice of someone else. And if we didn't have people that were willing to stand up for what was right and use force when it was necessary, we would all be slaves, wouldn't we?
We would. I've traveled to more than 40 countries. I've climbed the Great Wall in China. I've seen the rice terraces in the Philippines. I've seen the pyramids. I've seen the Hanging Gardens. I've seen most of the wonders of the world. And we as Americans live in the greatest country in the world, the most freedoms of any country in the world. We enjoy such tremendous privileges that we don't appreciate it. When I was in Korea, I watched the entrepreneurialism of the Koreans, and I went through sections where they take on the highway, the median. They found the dirt section and planted vegetables in the median, and they planted trees or whatever, something they could harvest in the highway itself, in the median. And I thought, that is so wild, that they don't have that much cultivatable land, and so they go out into the median strip in the highway and plant vegetables and tend them and then harvest them. And you see enough things like that, and you really, really do grow to appreciate what you have. It's, I'm extremely fortunate. I mean, I get to work from my home every day, get up and decide whether I want to even go to work, whether I want to go fishing or just go play with my granddaughter or whatever. I'm so blessed,
Well, that is a wonderful place to be. How does it feel to be recognized as an internet hero?
It takes some getting used to, but I honestly feel I've earned it. I've worked at it for about 10 years. See, so many people start out down a path and give up. And not everything I've done has been, worked out perfectly. So it's persistence is just sticking through something long enough for it to work out. And so it feels great. When I was at the Onyx seminar in D.C., and half people I talked to said, I'm a subscriber to your newsletter, that's a very good feeling, but it also says I'm doing something right. It says I'm treating people fairly. I'm not misleading people. So it says I'm on track for what I want to accomplish.
Well, why do you think you were selected for the unique honor of an internet hero?
I perhaps because of visibility, but also, my value system. I really care about people. I work out of my home. I have an office there, and above my desk I have a picture of some of my subscribers. And so when I'm sitting down writing a newsletter, I'm not just writing a newsletter. I'm talking to individuals. I'm saying, I know that you're a working-home mom with 3 kids. I know that you're a senior citizen on a fixed income. I know that you're whatever. And here's what I found to work for me, and here's how you can twist it and make it work for you. So I am an internet hero, but it's because I care about you. I care about people.
Well, how will being recognized as an internet hero change your life?
It won't change it too much, other than me pointing people to the website and saying, go check this out, because there's other people that really do care about you. And that's what it's all about to me. It's all about really caring about people. It's, 100 years from now, I won't be here, and so I'll be judged by what I do. And I don't want to step on anybody's dreams. I don't have permission to step on anybody's dreams,
Yeah. Well, do you have any good solutions to the problems facing society, especially racism, child and spousal abuse, and violence among young people?
Only that you teach people that the only person they have control over is themselves. I've dealt with not spousal or child abuse, but I've dealt with racism much of my adult life, and the only person you can change is yourself. Mm-hmm. If you can make yourself a better person, someone that people can look at, look up to, and see that, yeah, he's different than me, mm-hmm. but he's not harming me, he's making the world a better place, mm-hmm. then you made a difference. Mm-hmm. So, and that probably even for spousal and child abuse, it's setting an example of what's acceptable, mm-hmm. what's acceptable. Mm-hmm. But no, I don't have any. I mean, I wish I could wave a magic wand and fix the world tomorrow, mm-hmm. but I can't. Mm-hmm. I can only fix myself. Mm-hmm. And if I fix myself, that'll make the world a better place.
Yeah. Well, if you had 3 wishes for your life and the world that would instantly come true, what would they be?
I guess most people say world peace, but I've seen close up the effects of war, and it just disrupts ordinary lives. So peace, and into many of the forms of suffering. I mean, cancer is probably the most scary thing that most of us face, mm-hmm. and yet it's something out of kilter in our environment that mm-hmm. that causes cells to grow at an abnormal pace. So a cure for cancer, and then serenity. Mm-hmm. Too many of us are facing these battles in our minds, and we're not happy. We're at war with ourselves. Mm-hmm. So, to me, serenity is a major it's a major importance.
Mm-hmm. Well, what are the things that parents can do that will help their children realize that they too can be heroes and make a positive impact on the lives of others?
The best thing they can do is be a good example. I mean, my grandmother in particular, she just set a good example for me. She showed that she wasn't just talking the talk; she was walking the walk. Mm-hmm. She didn't have the money to do things, but she could show me how to do the next right thing. Mm-hmm. And things that we do when our children are in their teens or whatever may not kick in until 10 years later, in their late 20s or whatever, but we've influenced their thought process. Mm-hmm. And so the greatest thing you can do for your children is to set a good example.
Mm-hmm. Boy, it's amazing, too, because kids really look at your actions as well as listen to your words.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Willie, what do you think about the In Search of Heroes program and its impact on youth, parents, and business people?
I love the whole concept because the youth of today are going to be our leaders tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And anything we can do to shape their minds, to set positive examples. Television is too willing to provide negative examples, and that's partly because that's what people want. Mm-hmm. There's this side of humanity that, when you drive past an accident, we rubberneck and gawk and look and see, well, who was killed or whatever, Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's this part of us that wants to see that, but there's a part of us that wants to know that man is basically good, mm-hmm. and wants proof of that. Mm-hmm. And so the greatest impact that I can have, the greatest impact that most of us can have, is to provide positive examples, positive role models, mm-hmm. showing that if you just focus on helping others, if you help, that was somebody who said, if you help enough people to get what they want, you'll get what you want. Mm-hmm. If we just focus on helping others, life will work out in your favor. Mm-hmm. It will.
Mm-hmm. I think that was Zig Ziglar that said that.
I think Zig said it too, yes.
Yeah. He's got an amazing story. It reminds me of what you talked about, the necessary aspect of forgiveness, where somebody's sitting in a car and somebody honks their horn at him, and that person's down the freeway and they've completely forgot about honking their horn.
You're sitting there stewing about it, yeah. and they've forgotten about it. It's only affecting you because you're stewing about it.
Yeah, and Zig had a funny story about kicking the cat. Did you ever hear that one?
No, I didn't hear that one.
Well, it's one well worth listening to and getting Zig's. I won't ruin the experience of it for people that get a chance to listen to Zig's material. But the idea is that a person had a problem in the morning, like they spilled coffee and they were upset about that, and then they go outside and get in their car and make a mistake in driving, and all of a sudden somebody pulls out in front of them or whatever, and they're just furious the entire day, and that other person didn't even know that they pulled out in front of them.
No.
And when they finally get home, the cat does something, pees on the carpet or whatever, and the person kicks the cat and feels a lot better. And Zig says the person should have kicked the cat when they got up.
Yeah. Cat won't appreciate that.
No, I don't believe in abusing animals, but I thought it was a funny analogy. Well, Willie, I really appreciate your time. I mean, you've just given incredible value and wonderful information for everybody, no matter where they are in their lives, to understand what they need to do to change themselves to become like you, who's overcome tremendous obstacles to be incredibly successful.
The only person you can change is yourself. And so it's an inside job. It all starts with changing yourself, your perspective, what you're willing to risk, and you go from there. And it's also making a decision that you're going to do it, not just thinking about doing it, but doing it.
Yeah, boy, that is just timeless advice. Well, again, Willie, I really appreciate your time.